And welcome to another episode of the Pick Six Podcast. We are proud partners of Podcast One. You can also find this on YouTube. This is first and foremost a YouTube show. Check out youtube.com/the underdog. You're listening as usual to Sean and Brad of the Get Paid Podcast. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I shaved my beard as, about our 4 members of the audience. No, we have a bigger audience than that. But shaved my beard. No, we get about what 50 views on YouTube. We get about 8,000 to 10,000 people on iTunes, which actually is pretty good. I think a lot of people would kill for that. But our Get Paid Podcast, Brad. I think we do like 50 to 70 depending on what's going on. So that's a much bigger deal. But no, yeah, man, we're growing this thing. It's pretty cool. Last week we were 4-2. If you watch the Get Paid Podcast, I was 11-4. That was following a 10-3 week last week, and that was following, I believe, a 9-3 week the week before. So I'm somewhere. I haven't gone back. I have the numbers somewhere, but I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of 28 and what was that make it? 28-10 over the last 3 weeks. So that's pretty damn good.
Nice.
Yep.
That's awesome.
If you're new and you don't, you've never followed me, and why would you? Who the hell am I? But I've been doing betting analytics for 5. Actually, this is the 6th year. There's only been one season where against all games against the spread, I've been under 60%. I usually track at about 65%, especially in our locks. Last year, Brad and I were 60% when we agreed. This year, so far this season, we were 59.5% when we agree. So that's kind of what this Pick Six is all about. Today, we're just going to be running through the games because I'll be honest with you, I forgot to write down the daily fantasy bargains this week. So we won't do that. Maybe I'll pop up DraftKings or something and add to that, but just watch another show. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the following games: the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Chicago Bears, the Seattle Seahawks versus the Atlanta Falcons, New England Patriots. They're hosting Cleveland Browns at the New England Patriots, Denver Broncos at the Indianapolis Colts, Miami Dolphins at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Brad and I are also going to throw in one bonus game. We're going to be talking about Thursday night Washington Redskins at the Minnesota Vikings. Before we get moving, Brad, anything jump out at you from Week 7 that you want to talk about? Any gear grinders? Anything else?
From the past week that we just had?
Yeah.
Any gear grinders? It's just a continuation. I don't think the refereeing is very consistent. I don't think they know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
I think it's all gotten itself so far from where it needs to be, just in the pursuit of get it right. And
they can't even get it right when they're trying to get it right. It's so bad.
That's the problem. They're not getting it right. And there's so many flags. There's too many flags.
Too many flags. You're exactly right. And I've been bagging on Al Riveron. The every season since Al Riveron has taken over, it's gotten worse and worse. And Al Riveron, when Dean Blandino left and went to the Fox, Al Riveron got the job primarily because the NFL thought that he would be the best on camera, meaning when the NFL had to explain themselves after poor officiating games, and this is something that Dean Blandino was great about. That's why he's on Fox now. They thought that Al Riveron would be the best, not because he was the best official, but because they thought he would be the best on camera. And let me tell you, since centralizing the last 2 minutes of each half, centralizing not only the last 2 minutes of each half, but also all challenges, it has gotten worse and less consistent. It used to be, Brad, before, let's say even before Blandino, but Blandino was pretty good, I thought. Before that, before the centralization and all that stuff, everything was pretty good, I thought. People would gripe. Occasionally you'd get some things that fans would argue about and be mad about, but not the volume that we're getting today. Am I wrong about that?
Yes, right.
It is.
It's weekly.
It's weekly, and it's multiple
weekly.
Times weekly. It is so bad. The pass interference thing is a joke. I mean, how many?
It's a joke.
And to like, it used to be that as fans of the NFL, and yes, we know what happened against New Orleans and Los Angeles. We talked about that a lot. We're not going to go into that now, but it used to be that as a fan watching these games, right? You would look at them like something like that, and a pass interference would happen, or the offense would pick the defensive receiver or something like that, and you'd be like, that was an effing pick, but it happens. You live with it, And now it's like the coach will challenge it because it was obvious, and then all the fans now think, "Oh gosh, that was obvious." Even the opposing fans will think, "Oh man, that was obvious. This is going to come back."
Right,
and then the NFL is like, "Stance is called,"
and then it doesn't come back.
It doesn't come back, and
that's
it's like
the worst part.
Yeah, and it's like this emphasis. I don't know. Mark Schlereth had a really funny line, and forgive me, I can't remember it, but I think he said something like, I think you have a better chance of it starting to snow here in Arizona today than you do of getting this pass interference call back. It doesn't matter how egregious it is. And that is the word that they use, egregious. It doesn't matter. It's so bad. It's awful.
So bad. And also, like, okay, so they say, well, we just want to get it right. Oh, you want to get it right, huh? Well, unless you're out of challenges, then we really don't give a shit about getting it right. You know what I mean?
I tell
do
you
want to get it right, or do you need the challenges to get it right?
How about this? So let me take you to another tangent of mine, is NFL coaching. So I texted you this line, Brad, and I thought it was a good one, so I'm going to reuse it for the audience. I said, maybe Bill Belichick isn't the smartest guy in NFL coaching. Maybe he's just the only coach that can tie his own sneakers, tie his own shoelaces.
Right. Maybe it's so bad that...
It's so bad. So I'm going to give you two examples. One you've heard, and people who listen to the whole Get Paid show, you heard it. The Kyle Shanahan thing, where it's 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. He has both challenges, all three timeouts. It's a 6-0 game at this point. It's a slop game. Garoppolo hits, I think it's Keith Bourne, but it's Bourne, the wide receiver. Slides across. I don't think a Washington defender hits him. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan wanted to look at the thing, brings the play clock all the way down to 1, and calls a timeout. Obviously, he was thinking about challenging that call. Throwing the red flag there is the same thing as taking a timeout. Why don't people – and Kyle Shanahan is not the only coach that does this. There was a coach last week that was trying to decide – or maybe it was a couple weeks ago – trying to decide whether or not to challenge a call, calls a timeout, then decides to challenge the flag, throws the flag, doesn't get overturned, and loses 2 timeouts. Just throw the challenge flag.
Just throw the challenge flag.
Now, if it's the first quarter, okay. If it's the second quarter, okay. Even if it's the third quarter, you want to hang on. 7 minutes in a game that touchdown puts that game completely out of control for Washington. And you would be in field goal position regardless to make it a 2-point score. Shanahan, all 3 timeouts. You don't need the timeouts anyway. Unfathomable. The second example I have, and I believe his last name, I don't even know the coach. It's something Lynn, the head coach of the Chargers. So going towards the end of that game there, and this is a game the Chargers should have won. No disrespect to Tennessee, though, because I do like them as a team, especially with Tannehill playing quarterback now. I look up, and Tennessee, I think, is trying to get a 4th down or a 3rd down conversion or something like that. And they get all the way close, and they almost give Tennessee a 1st down on a bad yardage call. And I'm like, oh, well, the Chargers will challenge it. And I look down, and Chargers don't have any timeouts. How is it that every freaking week Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, Bill Belichick have all 3 timeouts with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter? And then you look at other teams, and they have none of their timeouts left. It's like they waste them on the third quarter. The disparity, I'm telling you, Bill Belichick, he's the greatest coach of all time. Is he just the only guy who has intelligence in this freaking league? Andy Reid, what did I say? I said something like Bill Belichick is a Ferrari. Andy Reid is like a Camry, and then everybody else in the NFL is walking barefoot or something like that. It's like
it's fair enough.
It just drives me crazy. But anyway, this
I know. Yeah, it grinds the gears weekly, man. Just stop throwing all the flags first and foremost. Just stop. Gosh. Come on.
They're so bad. They're so bad, Brad. It's bad. And the NFL now, I mean, honestly, it's an issue. Everybody's gravitating towards watching the games at home because the experience watching the games at home is so good. I have 3 games. We watch 2 games at once at your place. I watch 3 games, sometimes even 4 games. Probably when you come to visit, I'll probably have a fourth game going. You'll be visiting the weekend before Thanksgiving. It's just such a good viewing experience. And now we can see, and especially the officiating, when you see 2 plays on 2 TVs go to New York for review on pass interference that are both egregious and neither one of them get overturned. It's something. It is something to watch and experience. But, Brad, let's just break into the games now. First one we're talking about is the LA Chargers. They're getting 4 points, visiting the Chicago Bears. We are taking the Chargers this week. And, Brad, do you want to just kind of start off with that one and why you like the Chargers more than the Bears?
I like the Bears a little bit to even possibly win this game, but I think the only way they're going to win these days is if they if they win by 3 points, a field goal defensive game. And I think that Phillip Rivers can light it up any weekend with the best of them. I mean, can we agree on that?
Yeah. Week to week, he could be, a top 5 quarterback in the league any week, and probably will be
single week.
Will be a top 10 quarterback half the games this season. That's
Totally.
Phillip Rivers, and he's not bad. Here's what concerns me about Chicago. We didn't talk about this in the Get Paid podcast this week. What concerns me is I've seen now 2 weeks in a row, the Oakland game and last week against the Saints, teams just basically said, you know what, Chicago and your great defense, we're just going to run the ball straight up the middle, and we're going to see what you can do. And they've given up big yardage 2 weeks in a row in the run game. On top of that, I thought it was interesting when Coach Fangio of Denver, who of course was the defensive coordinator for Chicago last year, I thought it was really interesting that when Denver played Chicago, it's almost like, okay, the architect of this defense, the Chicago defense, is now helping game plan offensively. How would he attack himself, right? And what Denver ended up doing was just using the running backs. They used Philip Lindsay and they used Royce Freeman. And they just ran at Chicago, and they used them out of the backfield. And what have we seen? The NFL is a copycat league. What have we seen since then? Chicago's being attacked with run up the middle and screen pass. And, the Chargers have a good, good roster for that kind of thing. Not only do they have Eckler kind of as an out-of-the-backfield scat back, although he's playing more receiver these days, but they have Melvin Gordon, who can be good in the screen game. Austin Eckler could be in the backfield, be good in the screen game. And Hunter Henry is back. At tight end, and I'm not even talking about Keenan Allen or Phillip Rivers yet. I'm just talking about those 3 pieces. I think, like you say, Brad, like Chicago, this is a good game for them to win. They really kind of have to win this game because the NFC North is getting away from them.
Well, what are they at now? They're 2 games back from Green Bay, and they're a game back from Minnesota, at least.
At least they might be. Yeah. They're 2, maybe 2.5 or something like that. But I think in the loss column, which is the important one, I think they're 2-1. Yeah, man, it's. I think this is a close game. I think this is a candidate game because the Chargers are also in the same position. They also have a very talented roster. I think inferior coaching, but superior quarterback play, which is important on the field. I'm going to take the Chargers to win this game in an upset. But I do think it's a close game regardless. So 4 points. It's not even a field goal game, Brad. It's 4.
Right.
I'll take that 4 all day. Let's move it over Seattle, Brad. Seattle. I'll start off with this one, and then you can kind of close this thing out. Okay, so Seattle is on the road against Atlanta. Seattle, by the way, this year, uncharacteristically, dropped 2 games at home, 1 to Baltimore, 1 to New Orleans. On the road, they're undefeated. Playing Atlanta, a struggling Atlanta team who might not even have Matt Ryan at quarterback this week. The game when we recorded Get Paid was -3.5. Seattle -3.5. That line, I was actually talking to Dave Mason of Bet Online earlier today. That line has now been taken off the board entirely because too much action has been going over Seattle. But either way, they took it off the board. They didn't even adjust the line.
Of the year.
Yeah, I know, man. It was
no sense.
It was like we took Seattle -3.5, dude. Brad and I are on Seattle.
What is that?
I don't know. I mean, when was the last time Atlanta didn't allow 30 points in a game? And Matt Ryan banged up. Even if he does play, he's banged up. Matt Schaub would be the quarterback if Matt Ryan doesn't go. Yikes, man. Brad and I, and we're talking 3.5. By the time people see this, goodness gracious, I don't even know what the line's going to be. It could be 8 for all I know. But Seattle -3.5. We're on Seattle on that. I think 90% of the money was going to Seattle. They took it off the board. Oh, man. Oh, speaking of the Chargers, I asked him about the Chargers game, and 62.5% of the money was on the Chargers. But what's interesting, if people don't know this, is the sharp money, like the big professional gamblers, they come in on like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it's always interesting to see, like from Get Paid when we do these lines, to see how they shift. A lot of times Brad and I actually place our bets on Friday or Saturday, and the lines have moved when we do this show. So it's very interesting. But anyway, Seattle, yeah, too much money, so that line got pulled off the board. By the time people see this episode, it might be back on the board. But yeah, Russell Wilson against Atlanta's defense. I think everybody is a start in fantasy and daily fantasy for Seattle. I don't see how Atlanta can keep up with the Seattle offense. I just don't see it. Brad, do you have anything else to add on that?
No.
When we saw this line, I think I actually went back. There were 2 of them. No. It was this one. I went back. I was like, that can't be right. And I went back on to log into the odds while on the show, and I was like, it is 3.5. I cannot believe this. I can't believe it. I thought that this line would be seriously like 7.5.
Yeah, I would say so.
Even with
For
Ryan,
sure.
even
Right,
with
right
a healthy
there.
Ryan. I mean, anyway. So we're on Seattle. Next game, Brad, we have this is the third game we love. We like a bunch of them. We agree on a bunch of them, but the top three we really loved. Cleveland plus 13 at New England. I'm going to let you start on this one, Brad. Brad and I picked New England in this game. Brad, why are you picking New England?
Well, I think that Baker Mayfield's going to have his worst day as a pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that he's not any better than Sam Darnold. Do you think he's better? I think he has more experience, but I don't think he's better.
Well, he certainly was better last year and has shown the ability to be better than Sam Darnold. But to be fair, I don't think we've seen the best of Sam Darnold. Have we seen the best of Baker Mayfield? I don't think so, but I do think this coaching staff in Cleveland, I've been selling on them for a couple weeks now. I don't think Freddie Kitchens is the guy. We talked about this even way back in our AFC North preview. I wasn't sure if he'd be the guy. Now I'm sure that he's not the guy. So sorry, Cleveland fans. That's my take. New England, I agree. I think that we could look back on this and say this is Baker Mayfield's worst game of his career. We just saw it with Sam Darnold. That could have been on Monday Night Football. That could have been his worst game of his career. Even 10 years from now, we might be saying that. It's tough. I wrote down actually New England 30, Cleveland 16. New England has a short week, but I don't think it matters. They have the superior coach. They have the superior quarterback. I would say Cleveland has the superior running back, although Sony Michel and James White, that tandem's not bad. I would say Cleveland has a superior wide receiver, the top wide receiver, although Josh Gordon ain't bad if he can play. Neither is Edelman, of course. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I'm not convinced that at this point today, Odell Beckham Jr. is better than Julian Edelman. Honestly, I know I'm crazy for saying that, but he needs to show up in Cleveland. He had a bunch of drops the last time they played before their bye week. Now, Cleveland had a bye week to game plan for this, which makes it all that more funny to me, this matchup. I'm sorry, Cleveland fans. I just don't see it. New England, their defense is so rowdy. They're so rowdy. They force turnovers.
So rowdy. How could they be so good? Where'd that come from?
They were starting to get better last year, and then and what we saw them do to the Jets on Monday Night Football, they had suspended Michael Bennett before the game, so he their best defensive lineman wouldn't even play, and they still dominated. It's I think this is going to be a rout. I wrote down 30-16. It wouldn't shock me if it was more. 13, I think it's close. It's a closer cover. But honestly, my analytics think my computers think it's like a 20-point game. I'm taking New England. Nobody's scoring on him. And this is what Baker Mayfield is today. He's a 55% passer. How is that going to beat New England? His turnovers are up from the last 8 games.
He's not going to beat New England. He's not going to get close.
Yeah.
Who's their best weapon? I mean,
Odell. Nick Chubb is their best weapon, but New England's going to take him out of the game. That's what they do. They take away the best weapon. So this is going to be Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham versus New England Patriots. I don't see them covering. I just don't. I don't see it.
I don't either. Not even close. Buddy.
I'm gonna do. You know what? I'm gonna do a deep dive and a game plan review of this one, just because it's so interesting to me. I'm gonna do it for myself anyway, so I may as well record it. Let's see. Next game on our list, Brad. So we love those three, by the way. Next game, Brad and I like. We're not in love with, but we like it a lot. We're ready to do a trial move-in with this game. Maybe let them spend the night 6 days a week, and we'll take the 7th for ourselves to internalize. But we have the Cincinnati Bengals plus 13 at the LA Rams. I'm selling on Zach Taylor. I think he's garbage as a head coach. Can't get Joe Mixon going. Can't get the run game going. The Rams similarly have trouble with the run game, but they still do have Todd Gurley, banged up offensive line, made some trades. They have Jalen Ramsey now. Brad and I are on the Rams. Brad, do you have anything to say about this game?
No.
The Rams for me, Jared Goff, I just and AJ Green is doubtful again, so I don't think he's going to play. I just don't see Cincinnati scoring.
No, I don't either.
A couple field goals.
Their best player is not going to be in there, and even if he was, I'd still go with the Rams. So It's like. This seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, so far, and this is – we don't like doing this. I say this a couple times. We don't like doing this, but New England minus 13, LA Rams minus 13. We're laying the points in both of those games. Yikes.
Right.
We'll make it.
We don't usually do this. This is a new week for us.
Yeah, you especially. Like
Yes,
with respect to the Patriots, I'll lay the points down. And sometimes with respect to the Chiefs, we'll lay the points down. But the Rams concern me a little bit. But I just don't see Cincinnati scoring a touchdown in this game. Maybe they'll give you 5 field goals, but even then, I don't think they cover. So I'll take the Rams. Next game on the list, Brad. We have Indianapolis. I'm sorry, no. We have Denver +6 at Indianapolis. Brad, you and I are taking Indianapolis. Denver was on bye week last week. They just, Brad, before, so I think this line's going to shift a little bit. Before we took this game, the news dropped, I should say after we took this game, the news dropped that Denver traded Emmanuel Sanders to the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, no kidding.
That's a great pickup for them.
Listen, I have to say that I was completely wrong, and I'll let you speak for yourself. But I was completely wrong about Joe Flacco. I thought that he would play much better. He looks slow with a dead arm and a low IQ all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like the game seems too much for him. I don't think he's doing very well at all. And we thought he was going to perform much better. Nope.
Yeah. Yeah, with respect to that, so Joe Flacco, I agree with you, and I liked this team coming in defensively. I thought Fangio was going to get their group going, and we've seen some flashes of them, but let's be real about this. I mean, Denver's had some injury issues, and they're not at full strength. Their offensive line, same thing. It was a weakness to come in the season, and then their big free agent acquisition or trade acquisition, whatever it was, their big acquisition has been hurt for, I think, since week 1. It's been a bunch of hard games for Denver. Indianapolis is the type of team that I said earlier this week, they're not going to wow you in any one facet of the game, but they're good at everything. And it's like those I'm not comparing the two like 1-to-1, but it's like those Patriots teams that have just been good at so long. They have a really good head coach. I think Frank Reich, not to say he's Bill Belichick, but I think Frank Reich is one of the best coaches in the league. And I know, the book is still out on him because he's only played, a season and a half. We see what's going on with McVay this year. The Wunderkind is now having some struggles this season. But, yeah, I think Frank Reich is great. I think they're exceptionally coached. I think Denver is actually pretty well coached, but not offensively. I don't like this offensive coordinator they have. I think they will be moving on from him at the end of the season. I think they start way too slow in games, which to me means they're not scheming well as in their preparation. I think the guy adjusts well in halftime, and they make runs, but I don't think he's really great at putting his team in position to succeed. So Denver, I think that John Elway has already figured this out, trading Emmanuel Sanders for picks. They're out of it. They know they're out of it. And, we thought Denver was going to be better than Oakland this season, and we are wrong. Oakland is definitely better than Denver, and Indianapolis is definitely better than Denver, so we are on Indy this week, -6 points. And to that end, too, Jacoby Brissett's better than everybody thought he was. Everybody except for this guy. This guy knew. I was talking.
You did know. You did know. Mad props.
Jacoby. It's easy for me to say that, though. I wouldn't have brought it up if he sucked ass. So, like Joe Flacco. You brought up Joe Flacco. You're a stand-up guy, Brad. You're a stand-up guy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, last game of the official Pick 6, though we will talk about Washington, Minnesota in just a bit. Last game of the official Pick 6, Miami +14.5 at Pittsburgh. Brad and I are taking Miami.
Come on, Miami, baby.
Are we the first people to ever take Miami in any bet this season? We could be, but look, at Pittsburgh, they're on their third string quarterback. Miami gave Buffalo a challenge. Buffalo came off a bye week. They still covered that spread. Brad and I picked them, but we didn't put them in the pick 6 last week. We actually got that pick right. Miami, I've been saying this for a couple weeks. Like they're a team that is lacking talent, but they all play hard. And so you get a really good effort in the first half, and then things start to slip a little bit in the second half, just like they did with Buffalo. That's their thing. Pittsburgh, I don't think is good enough to run away with this game with Hodges at quarterback, and even if Rudolph plays at quarterback, I just don't see it. James Conner is banged up. They're not running the ball enough. I think that Pittsburgh would be much better served, and their statistics show this, when they commit to the run and getting their running backs 20 to 30 touches between the two of them they're a much better team. They'll win games, and I think Pittsburgh will win this game. But I think Miami's going to come to play in this one.
I do too. I don't know why.
I
think they will.
I like the energy that they bring. Like I'm not so Miami, they're still winless. And Cincinnati, they're winless. Now I'm selling on Zach Taylor. I think he's garbage. He's the offensive guy. He can't get the offense going, and they have weapons in Cincinnati. Miami, like, they don't have anything, and they're all playing hard. So, like, they bought in, and they're fighting. And to me, what this means, and so everybody's talking about how Miami's tanking, and you can make the argument, all that. I just think that they realize that they're not going to beat the Patriots, and they have to acquire talent to beat the Patriots. And now you can make that argument with the Buffalo Bills too. They played them tough, but the Bills are, at this point, the cycle that they've built, they're ahead of Miami by a wide margin. So Miami needs these draft picks. But what they're doing now is a lot of these players should probably be backups. In a couple of years, when they get more free agents and they get more draft picks and they turn over the roster and suddenly they have 5 new starters on both sides of the ball, well, these guys that are playing today are suddenly going to be some of the best backups in the league. And so they're going to have crazy depth in a couple of years. Like this, it wouldn't shock me if in 2 or 3 years this is a playoff team that's a really good playoff team. I think they play hard. I think it's a close game. 14.5. That's more than 2 touchdowns. I think that's too much for where Pittsburgh is today.
Yeah.
If Roethlisberger was playing, I wouldn't bet on Pittsburgh, but I wouldn't bet on Miami either. I would take it off the board. But I'm telling you, like, that just goes to show, even if Roethlisberger was playing, I think that's probably too much for me to bet on. So there you go. Last game, Brad, I want you to start on this because you're kind of more passionate about this one than I am. On Thursday Night Football, not one of our official picks, but Brad and I do agree on this game. Washington plus 16 at Minnesota. What do you think, Brad?
Washington plus 16 at Minnesota on a primetime game. I think Kirk Cousins struggles against his own team. You know why? Because there's like first of all, it's under the lights.
Yeah.
And also there's like an extra little bit of juice to it. Because it's Washington, and he's not the type of guy that plays better when there's juice.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're so right.
He powers when there's juice.
And let me say this. So for everybody who likes Minnesota and watches this game, Brad and I on the Get Paid podcast, we ate it. We said, look, Kirk Cousins is playing fantastic. But what do we know about Kirk is he's not great in pressure games. He's not great in gotta-have-it games. Okay, that means like – like you're like 9-7, or I'm sorry, you're like 9-5, and you need to win a game for a division, or you're 9-6 and it's win or go home in the last game of the season. He's not good in those games. He's not good in games where there's pressure. He's playing Washington. He wants to play so well, and I do think he's going to get the victory here. But 16, Adam Thielen's hurt. Like, I don't think Washington has a single weapon on this team that can somehow manage to overtake Minnesota's defense, and I still think Washington covers. I have 10-16, Minnesota winning 16-10, 16 points. And here's the funny thing, Brad. I think this is I would suspect before the game, this is going to be bet up to like 17.5. If it gets up that high, I'm actually going to put money on Washington. If it gets to 2 touchdowns and a field goal,
I know what you're saying for sure.
I'm putting money. Thankfully, our show money's doing well. We've been betting all the games that we've been talking about, so it's good. It's good when you're 59.5%, you make money. I can kind of run through off the top of my head some daily fantasy sleepers this week. I like, I'm trying to off the top of my head. I like Philip Dorsett if he plays. I don't know what his budget is because, again, I didn't look at it. Philip Dorsett, I love his matchup against Cleveland. At tight end, you got to look at a guy like Jacob Hollister, who's dirt cheap. Nobody even knows who he is. He's the tight end for Seattle. He drew the most targets from Russell Wilson at the tight end position. Luke Wilson did not. Look for him. Running back, I like a few guys this week, but you got to look at Chase Edmonds. If David Johnson is down again, you got to look at him. You got to look at a guy like Wendell Smallwood for Washington if Chris Thompson can't go. But there's some value. Quarterback, there's always value. And you got to start looking at Ryan Tannehill too, because I like the weapons he has in Tennessee. He's got a good running game, a good offensive line to support him. Corey Davis and A.J. Brown to throw to, and Delaney Walker. Delaney Walker, by the way, in daily fantasy also be good. So there you go. Brad, I mean, teaser-wise, I don't really see a lot this week. Did anything jump out to you?
It's not my favorite week, my man.
Yeah,
not
it's a
my
tough
favorite week.
It's a tough week.
It's tough. A lot of mismatches, a lot of large spreads.
Yeah. It is. I mean, like I was looking for more 3.5, 2.5, 3, 4 spreads, and we got a lot of 7s to 14s. It's tough, man. It's a tough week. You hate laying the points, but we really had no choice with the Rams one. We liked the New England one. The Rams one was just like, we both kind of leaned that way, and then we talked about it. We're like, yeah, Cincinnati can't score. I guess the Rams We're betting on the Rams to be able to get 30 on Cincinnati. That'll be a safe bet.
I mean, that's not the craziest bet, is it?
Yeah, I mean, Cincinnati's defense is better than the offense is at this point. That offense, specifically the running game, is so bad. So now you have Andy Dalton throwing against Jalen Ramsey. Yeah, I like that game more and more.
I like that game a lot.
All right, everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, everybody, subscribe on YouTube. That helps. Watch videos on YouTube. That helps. If you're listening to this podcast, check out the Underdog Network. It's youtube.com/theunderdog. It's not just me and Brad. We had a lot of stuff, a lot of fantasy football primer, a lot of NFL content. The NBA content starting to ratchet up too. So that's going to be cool. So Brad, thanks for stopping by again for this show, making the time for you, the viewer, every week. Thanks, buddy. Everybody, go out.
I got you.
Yes, go out, make some bets, get paid.